everyone. Welcome to Credential Up Houston. This is our special focusing on Jobs Now Houston. My name is Margaret Fisher. Most everyone wants to know more about agencies and organizations equipped to help them during this unusual period of time. Joining us to talk about a range of services that can help residents get a good job is Dr. Michael Webster, Associate Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development at the Houston Community College and board member of the Gulf Coast Workforce Development Board. Thank you so very much for joining us today, Dr. Webster. So delighted to see you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Certainly. Well, there are a lot of conversations about various boards and organizations that help the residents of the 13-county area. And your role is really critically important as you serve on the Gulf Coast Workforce Development Board. Tell us the difference between the work of your board, the WorkSource Solutions, which is under your board, and HGAC, the Houston Galveston Area Council.
Yeah, so the Houston Galveston Area Council is it's what they call a government cog. It's a collection of agencies housed under one main council. Within there, you have the Agency on Aging. You've got a buyer procurement co-op. An environmental agency, transportation, and then of course the workforce board. So all of these agencies work under that larger umbrella to bring in funding from the state and from the federal government to support different programs here in Houston. The workforce board is the employment arm of the state in our local region, the Gulf Coast region.
That's very interesting. It's the employment arm, and it helps the residents to get good careers, good jobs as well. So the WorkSource Solutions is a part of your organization, is that right?
Yeah, so the Gulf Coast Workforce Board is an appointed board in combination with the city and the county, and then the Texas Workforce Commission. Under the Workforce Board, their retail shops, if you will, are called Workforce Solutions. And you'd be surprised, the Gulf Coast Workforce Solutions, they've actually won several awards because of the service that they've done. They've really converted what you would, when you say unemployment office, you think of that 1970s brick kind of bureaucratic space. The Workforce Board has done a yeoman's job just to get it back to a place that is really welcoming when people walk into the doors and supportive of all the clients that they serve.
So the roles of the organizations are critically important at this period of time. There are so many residents who are desperate, and some of them have told me that they've lost their jobs. Some have lost hope, and many of them are wondering how to meet their most basic needs. And we can just say, for example, like on Maslow's hierarchy, the need for food, shelter, the need for esteem, and then ultimately move towards self-actualization. So at this critical time for so many people who have lost their jobs, what do you advise them to do to achieve their end goal?
Well, the good thing about Houston is before this pandemic, we were certainly a job center. We've been a huge job maker for the last 10 to 15 years. We're going to continue to do that because we have one of the most robust economies in the nation. Going into an office, a Workforce Solutions office, you're not going to just get a little service. You're going to launch a career. What the Workforce Board we always say is, get a job, get training, get a better job, and I think that's what the path is when you go into a Workforce Solutions office. The beauty is it's partnered with HCC, so we can offer up the training as well.
Well, that is the beauty of it, isn't it? And so, the question then becomes with the 13-county region, and there are other educational institutions as well. Is there a collaborative among the various institutions in order to ensure that the residents are prepared for the jobs that are available?
Yeah, and it really is filtered through sectors. So the petrochemical sector is a good example. All of the colleges work together on an initiative called the Community College petrochemical initiative. We partner with industry and then with Workforce Solutions to provide students scholarships in in-demand fields that the Workforce Board has designated. So whatever money that they get from our scholarship, as well as dollars from the Workforce Solutions, they apply towards a in-demand job in the petrochemical field. We've done this in transportation. We've done it in construction. There's a few different sectors that community colleges work together on to really promote in-demand jobs.
You mentioned several areas that are of particular concern as you look at the human services sector particularly. You mentioned aging. You mentioned those persons who perhaps are disabled in terms of the hearing, the visual, the vision, and the mobility. So is there a specific effort made to address the needs of the residents who fall into that category at this time?
Yeah, and it comes from a few different streams, funding streams. TWC obviously provides for disabilities. In fact, this summer they've funded a STEM camp for our VAST students, our program for students with disabilities. So there's kind of braided funding that we do to meet the needs of different sectors or different groups of people. Veterans is another one that actually comes out of the HGAC, and they have a funding stream as well that supports job training for them as well. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to get help from HGAC, and then specifically the Workforce Board within that when it comes to training.
Well, it's really very exciting to know, and I'm wondering how widely disseminated is that information so that those persons who are now feeling that desperation know just exactly where to go to get that assistance they are looking for.
From our side, from the college's side, we have a pretty robust student services portal on our website that can assist students of any type that need different additional services. So that's, if they're coming to us, that's a good place to start. With respect to the Workforce Board or HGAC, their website also houses all the information to get services. And the third arm of that, I would say, is the city. The city is in direct connection with the Workforce Board and the Houston and Galveston Area Council, and they also promote some of those services within their community centers, on their website. So I mean, it really is more connected than most people would believe, and you can see that when you go after one of these services if you're in need.
That's good to know. It certainly is. We were talking about the seniors, and I'm not talking about the high school seniors, but those who are 55 plus. And I was reading an article in AARP, and they indicated that nearly 40% of adults age 55 and older are either working or looking for a job. And so we know that perhaps there are some barriers that are there, and these barriers certainly supersede the fact that some of them may not know about the agencies and our organizations that are available to help them. So obviously, what is being done to remove some of those barriers that they may be incurring?
I can speak directly just from HCC side. We have, you mentioned AARP, we have a partnership with AARP to provide some initial job, at least, getting back into this idea of job training. So we do a seminar, it's a 7-hour seminar. And then connected to that is they can go into a job training program at HCC. And starting at age 55, there's a scale that eventually by the time you're 65, it's free. So free above 65 training at HCC, and then discounted between 55 and 65. So for those looking for work that are older, HCC is a great place to start.
Well, this is very helpful information. It's very, very good to know all of the services available. So I tell you what, we're going to take a break. And when we return, we will talk about the employers and the jobs in the 13 county region that the organizations oversee and how educational partners can help our viewers to get the training they might need to get the job that they want. So we are going to continue our conversation in just a moment, so please stay with us.
valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Food. We think about it all the time, but for many Americans, it's a scary thought. During this crisis, 1 in 12 seniors and 1 in 7 children don't have access to nutritious food. We can all help. Get involved at feedingamerica.org.
Meet Saskia. She loves cars. Seriously, she whistles at them. So she's studying engineering at Houston Community College. After that, a 4-year degree. Then it's off to the races. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston with our special focus on Jobs Now Houston. We'd like to thank you very much for staying with us, and we're having a great conversation with Dr. Michael Webster, who is the Associate Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development at the Houston Community College and a member of the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. So he's sharing excellent information that I think all of our viewers would benefit from. So we'd like to now shift our conversation, Dr. Webster, to employers, jobs, and training. There are 4 strategic goals for regional economic development. One is competitive employers, another is an educated workforce, the third is more and better jobs, and of course the fourth is higher incomes. So I'm going to focus on one baseline for each, and we can talk about those. And so the information is very impressive. So on competitive employers, there are 28,000 employers who currently use workforce solutions in 2020, and is projected to have 31,000 in 2023. So I'm wondering, how has COVID affected that number for 2020? And how do you think it is going to impact it as we move into the future?
Well, so the employers use workforce solutions in a number of ways. One of them is to support their training of their incumbent workers or new workers through grant dollars that come from the Texas Workforce Commission, with the Workforce Board being the intermediary between them. Then another way that they use them is for unemployment benefits compensation for the employees that are laid off. And then the third piece is any general disruptions in services, they can access the Workforce Board for support. So, during the pandemic, we obviously had the CARES Act that came through, and in some degree, that funneled through TWC to the Gulf Coast, through the Workforce Board, and then to employers that needed to keep their employees on the payroll, but obviously not cut them loose or furlough them. That said, while there has been a lot that have been furloughed, there's enough employers out there, and the demand has been high enough that should those workers want to pivot and get different training, there's generally enough employers to pick up those workers. So, I mentioned construction. Construction never shut down, and it's continuing to move forward during the pandemic. The Workforce Board is a great place. The Workforce Solutions offices are a great place for employers to find the employees that they need. So, while we're in this situation, there's still a great role for the Workforce Board to play for employers, specifically in helping them find the workers when this is over, because they're going to need to bring back a workforce.
So you mentioned construction, which is really, as you said, it's very impressive that has continued. What are some of the other types of companies that would comprise that 28,000 employers currently?
Yeah, so I mentioned the petrochemical sector. That's a big one as well, not just on the construction side, but on the producing side as well. So, if it's plastic, it's coming from Houston, and we need people to help produce it. Construction, and then of course, we do have the largest medical center in the world, and that's a huge sector for us, healthcare, and those workers are definitely in demand. The fourth one I would round out there is any of the professional services, and you can almost lump IT in there with that. So, the back end cybersecurity, anything that's professional service, real estate, accounting, etc. Those are all in demand in our region as well.
And so that's a message to our students and prospective students as well, is that those are some areas that have really been able to weather the storm for the most part. Is that correct? During COVID-19?
For sure. Healthcare, transportation, and the supply chain. I mean, without the supply chain, we would just be shut down altogether. Month on month, year over year, over the last 2 years, truck driving continues to be the big one, and we need truck drivers. We have a wait list at our college. Our friends to the north have a wait list, and our friends to the south have a wait list at their colleges. So we know that's a huge demand, and not just for students that want to come in, but for folks. We barely can get them out of the truck, and we've already getting them hired out by an employer.
That's right, and it's pretty good wage. And as I understand it, that if 2 or 3 members of a family decide that they want to also become CDL drivers, that they can triple their income. And so let's move to the next one, an educated workforce. And this is something that could be troubling. The percentage of students enrolled in 9th and 12th grades earning a high school diploma in 2020 is 23%, and projected to be the same, 23% in 2023. So as we look at that, do you see that as being problematic?
It is. An educated workforce is key to our economy. It's, most recently we had Amazon that said they didn't want to put the headquarters here because they didn't see the talent that they wanted. So it's not just important for the workforce, it's important for our larger economy overall. We've got to make greater strides to graduate students ready to get into a training and then into a strong career after that.
Well, you're absolutely right. And of course, with technology and many of the innovations that will occur around technology, that's going to be very, very important. And as we look at a number of the other areas with, for example, you look at the higher incomes, you look at the more and better jobs, the data are showing that those persons who utilize the services of Workforce Solutions, that they either are able to get a percentage increase in their pay, and it increases the opportunities as well for them to get a good job. So that's great. So Dr. Webster, we're going to take another break. And when we return, we will discuss the intersection of just-in-time certificate-based training, which you oversee as well, and employment to help restore the economy and residents' self-worth. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Mac. She's ready to build herself a house and a business. But first, she's building her resume with a construction certification from Houston Community College. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
In these days, we're all doing our share to battle the virus.
We view an attack against any faith or ethnic group as an attack against all of us.
We are all in this together. Many of us are immigrants. The virus affects us all.
We all work together.
We are all Texans.
A natural disaster may force you to evacuate, and the coronavirus could impact your emergency plans. So take steps now to help your family and community prepare. Keep a supply kit stocked with cloth face coverings, disinfecting supplies, and hand sanitizers. Check with local officials about what shelter spaces will be open during quarantine efforts. And remember to review the CDC's guidelines with the whole family. Disasters won't wait. Neither should you. Visit ready.gov/plan to make a plan today.
Meet Travion. His mom went to Houston Community College, so choosing that was easy. Choosing what to study from more than 100 instructional fields? Not so much. HCC, for everyone, anytime.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston, our special focus on Jobs Now Houston. Our guest today is Dr. Michael Webster, of the Houston Community College and member of the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. Dr. Webster, thank you so very much for joining us. I would like for us to focus on the vast range of certificate and degree-based training opportunities that are available that include all populations. And you mentioned a number of those populations earlier, like the post-retirement residents, the disabled, as well as general student population who would be seeking employment. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that the unemployment rate for people with physical disabilities is 50% higher than the able-bodied. And so you mentioned that earlier as well. And we know that that's critically important. You mentioned the VAST program as well. So which jobs can people enter for on-the-job training, or they can work from home if they have mobility issues that they might be interested in, or if they're hearing impaired or the vision is impaired? What kinds of jobs would be advisable for them to pursue at this time?
Well, I think, in general, right now, most folks are trying to adapt to a work environment where they're at home, and they're trying to figure out how to do that remotely. At the same time, there are a number of jobs that are available. Anything in the IT field is something that can be taken, is a job that can be made and done remotely. I mentioned cybersecurity. We can't, if there's a computer and an internet involved, there has to be somebody that's working cybersecurity, and usually it's a huge team. Companies have to spend a vast amount of money on cybersecurity just to keep their own proprietary information safe. In addition to that, with anything, there's a need for support, back-end support when something breaks down. If we weren't able to use Zoom right now, we'd be on the phone calling somebody. So those are huge jobs. And then there's a kind of third leg of IT where folks are needing to improve processes in their company. And what we find, obviously, from automation is that where there's efficiencies that can be made, they will be made. And so automation makes that happen. And I think, anything in those sectors, right, in that sector, IT is a great job for somebody that's working from home, regardless of their situation or if they have a disability or not. IT is a great field to start.
Oh, it certainly is. So do you have quite a number of certificate-based programs, short turnaround training where people can get skills necessary and immediately go to work?
We do. And I mentioned professional services earlier. We have several there as well. Project management's another one. Anything from about a 4-week to a 12-week program. A couple of our colleges are promoting it as one and done. So it's one semester and they're done, and you can get a good job right after that. So if folks want to see more about those certificates, so they can check out our Jobs Now Houston website. It's jobsnowhouston.org. And that'll give you all the information about those short-term certificates.
That's true. It's a very impressive website. So, I'm wondering as well, because in some of the reading that I was doing, the following jobs are projected to grow through 2026. Appraisers and assessors of real estate, technical writers, tax preparers, property, real estate, and community association managers, which I found very interesting, crossing jobs, construction, of course, as you said, and building inspectors. So do you have a number of certificates that you offer in those areas as well?
We do. All of those we have certificates in, with the exception of appraisers. And it's funny that you should mention that, because we're working on that certificate right now. In the past, an appraiser actually went out, well, they still do. They go out and they look at the space and take the photos and whatnot, and had to handwrite every piece of that. Now there's just an application that they basically fill in the form and it does it for them. But it's a great job. It pays very well, and it is in demand. So we're creating that right now as we speak.
Well, that's good. So, it's interesting, because I think a number of individuals are looking at the short term and the long term in terms of their careers and their families. And even though some of the data indicate that many of the millennials will be changing careers a number of times during their lifetime, I think people are looking for the long haul and what they can go into that will be promising for the long term. And so are these jobs going to remain somewhat viable, even in the face of technology and innovation that will occur?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you're still, humans are obviously going to be needed for a number of things. We always say, if you can fix things, fix people, or fix the government, you're going to have a job. So those are three ways to look at it, and that's where we throw in humans. I know we're getting a little short on time, so I wanted to mention, because we started out talking about the Workforce Board, many of the programs that we have that are certificates, you can go into a Workforce Solutions office and get training dollars for. They will give you a scholarship to come to HCC and get trained. So I don't want to have that point get lost, that don't think money as a barrier, either from us internally or from the Workforce Board. You'll probably get a scholarship.
Well, you read my mind. I was going to come to that. And, in addition to that, I'm going to ask you, Dr. Webster, if there are additional recommendations that you would make for the viewers and prospective students who would be enrolling at HCC.
Right now, obviously things are different than they usually are, but come fall, we are definitely still, we're open now, and we're going to continue to be open throughout the fall and spring semester. Programming will be online, it'll be in the lab, and it'll be a hybrid, whatever the student is most comfortable with. So, if it's money, don't let that be a deterrent. Or if it's fear of getting outside of your house, don't let that be a deterrent. One way or another, we can get you trained and into a good job.
A good job. And of course, there are services available via the student services as well in the website to HCC that will allow students to get just an exhaustive list of programmatic information, training opportunities, short-term and long-term. And of course, they don't want to forget about your associate's degree programs as well, because you have quite a number of those that you offer also. So any final comments in the next 15 seconds?
Check out the Jobs Now Houston website. It's jobsnowhouston.org. It's a great place to start in your search for a career.
Well, I think that is just absolutely perfect. It's a great way to wind up our program. And I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Michael Webster, for an excellent program today. The information that you have provided is very instructive and informative. So many thanks to you. And we thank you, our viewers, as well for watching. I would like to remind you, as Dr. Webster said, to go to the Jobs Now Houston website at jobsnowhouston.org. And keep in mind that self-worth is defined as the level of importance that you place on yourself. So again, thank you so very much for watching. And remember to credential up Houston. We'll see you again next time.